and the Columbia Public Library to the Hybrid Candidate Forum. My name is David Lyle. I get the opportunity to be the moderator tonight, and we also want to thank KFRU and KOPN, two local radio stations that are broadcasting tonight's event live. We're going to focus on 4 different races, and they're all different and have their different responsibilities, and will have their different atmosphere and environment. And so it's going to be an interesting night. We'll move pretty quickly. Well, basically, this is not going to be, especially for our first group, because we have 3 candidates. The other groups will be 2 candidates. So we'll give a little bit longer to this first group that I'll introduce in just a moment, but around a half an hour for each of our panels tonight. And what we'll do is give them an opportunity, the candidates, to introduce themselves, and then we'll ask some questions that have been provided by the League of Women Voters. And then we'll have questions from our audience that is live here at the Columbia Public Library, or if you're watching on Zoom, you can use the chat part of Zoom, and those questions will be handed to me. So let's tell you again, we're focusing on primary contested races, the Republican nomination for Boone County Presiding Commissioner, we'll get to that later this evening, Democratic nomination for Boone County Recorder of Deeds, Democratic nomination for Associate Circuit Judge in Division 10, and the Democratic nomination for Missouri State Representative District 47. Now, the winners of these nominations will go on to have opponents in the November 8th election, except in the judicial contest, because the winner of the Democratic primary in that judicial race will be the next judge, because there is no Republican candidate. We're going to have candidate forums. We anticipate those in October for the general election races. We always appreciate the League of Women Voters and the library for hosting these events. So first of all, today we're going to do the Democratic candidates for Boone County Recorder of Deeds. The candidates are Shannon Martin, Bob Nolte, Nick Canote. The winner of this race is going to face Republican candidate Shimon Jones in November. Now, the Recorder of Deeds is responsible for making a record of documents, primarily in real estate, and the issuance of marriage licenses. In addition, Uniform Commercial Code, military discharge papers, tax liens, and miscellaneous documents may be recorded upon request and in compliance with statutes. So as we begin tonight, each candidate is going to have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and then we'll have questions that the league has provided. We'll take any questions that our participants have, and then we'll wrap it up with a final minute given to each of the candidates for a wrap-up comment. We're going to start with our opening comments, the 2-minute introduction comments, in the order that they are on the ballot, and then reverse that for the final comments. So let's begin by welcoming tonight Shannon Martin. Thank you for being here, and your opening 2 minutes, please.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Shannon Martin. I'm born and raised in Boone County, 6 generations. I grew up in Hallsville, graduated from high school from there, attended Columbia College here as an evening student while going to work full-time. I am the only candidate that currently works in the recorder's office. So I've spent all day there today and then to come here tonight to be with you. I've been a deputy recorder since 2018. I know what the recorder's office does. I know what's expected from the recorder's office. And I know how much pride I feel from working in the recorder's office. We just heard about some of the general responsibilities the recorder's office handles. And I do those on a daily basis. Today, I've spent the day recording documents and issuing marriage license. I'm the one solely responsible for putting those tax liens on people's properties. Not always the funnest thing, but you get to see some stuff. And lately, we've been doing a huge amount of certified marriage license to be Real ID compliant. So you've gotten your Real ID, you've been in to see us, and we've issued thousands of those in the past 3 years. And by 2023, that will take full effect to have that star put on your driver's license.
All right, thank you, Shannon Martin. Now, our next candidate for, I better turn this on, right? Sorry. Maybe I'll just leave that on. I'll be quiet while it's not, while I'm not talking. Our next candidate for Recorder of Deeds, Boone County, Bob Nolte, you may present your opening remarks.
Thank you, David, and thank you to the league for hosting us tonight. I'm Bob Nolte. running to serve as your recorder of deeds. As David talked about, the recorder's office manages the documentation of real estate transactions, issues marriage licenses, all the things Shannon does on a day-to-day basis. I want to talk about Betty Johnson, who spent her 36 years as our Boone County Recorder of Deeds. She really brought the office into being a modernized office, made it a leader in the county. And recently she has endorsed me. She believes that my experience makes me qualified to lead this office, to continue the tradition of excellence that they've had as a recorder's office. I spent the last 10 years almost working at the University of Missouri. I was the director of compliance in the athletic department. So in that role, I interpreted legislation and we put in place policies and procedures to make sure we were meeting that legislation. I think those administrative skills will interact great with the recorder's office, with making sure that everything is recorded correctly. I'm very, very excited to work with the staff there. They have a great staff. And I want to be on their team and lead them into the future.
Thank you, Bob Nolte. Our third candidate for this position is Nick Canote, and we'd like to hear your opening remarks.
Thank you, David. Thank you to the league and the library for hosting us this evening. My name is Nick Canote. I am also a candidate running for Recorder of Deeds, the most sought after office in Boone County, to everyone's surprise, including all three of us, I'm sure. A little bit about myself personally first, so you can understand my perspective and where I've come from. I'm not originally from Boone County. I mostly was raised and born and raised in Southern Illinois, kind of the metro east of St. Louis, both of you can know that area. Raised by a single mother as the youngest of 3 children. My childhood consisted of many of the staples of American poverty, including evictions, food insecurity, and domestic violence, to name a few. I'm incredibly fortunate to have come up through all that and be here with you all today, but I'm also very conscious of how that happened. It wasn't just through hard work, and there was certainly luck and a whole community of folks, especially teachers who believed in me along the way and supported me, even going so far as to pay for my college application fees so that I can become a first-generation college student when I came here to go to the University of Missouri. As a first-generation college student, I earned my degrees in political science and history, as well as certificates in multicultural studies and multicultural studies in American constitutional democracy. In college and since, I have spent my entire career working in and around government at all levels. That includes time in Congress, our state legislature, and most recently spending the last few years working directly with the majority of our municipalities here in Boone County and county government itself on a range of issues. I'm running for Boone County government and Recorder of Deeds office because I believe that my combination of my personal and professional experience is a perfect fit for this office that provides a very fundamental service and that is vital to citizens regardless of whether or not they realize it. We're talking about our land, our homes often, and really at the end of the day, we're talking about our generational wealth and well-being. I am fortunate to say I'm not alone in my belief that my experience fits this position. I've received over 20 endorsements from community leaders and elected officials throughout Boone County, including our Columbia City Council persons, Andrea Wader and Matt Pitzer, as well as Columbia School Board members, Catherine Sasser and Blake Willoughby, and the mayors of Hallsville, Centralia, and Rocheport. Again, I'm Nick Canote, and I look forward to answering all the questions tonight. Thank you.
Canote, thank you. Now, I want to remind you, if you have questions for these candidates, the Recorder of Deed candidates, then you can raise your hand if you have those questions written out, or the questions on your index cards. And if you're listening to us on Zoom or following us that way, use the chat to communicate and we will ask your questions. Nick, since you made a comment at the beginning of your opening statement about how this is the most coveted position in Boone County, I want to pick up on that for a second, because one of the questions that I wrote this afternoon was, I don't know of any kids who have said, when I grow up, I want to be a Recorder of Deeds. And we're going to start with Shannon on this one, then we go to Bob and Nick, and we'll alternate who gets to answer first in the succeeding questions. But for Shannon Martin, so why Recorder of Deeds?
I came on board 4 years ago. And from the very beginning, I walked into the vault and was so amazed by those records and how well they've been kept for over 200 years. I want to be part of that. I want to take those records, preserve them, show them off, and let everyone come in and see that they are available. All of those records are still available for you to look at. Right there in, I mean, they're beautiful. You walk through there, they're written and they started with the one book and we've just gone all the way up. Today, we finished book number 5,649 books. We did that today. So tomorrow we'll start 5,650 and they are all available. I am so thrilled to be part of this. That's what I love. That's where I work and I just want to go to the next level with this.
I want to just ask a clarification. What is a book? What do you mean by a book?
A book is every individual record that is kept by the recorder's office. One document comes in, we record it, it's recorded in a book. When 200 documents fill the book, we go to the next book and continues on and on. And so they started way back in the day with book number 1. Actually not, their book started A and they went to 26 and then they're like, what do we do now? So they went to 1 and now we're up to 5,649.
Thank you. Bob Nolte, kids don't say I want to be a recorder of deeds when they start out thinking about potential jobs. Why are you seeking this job?
This is one of the only politically elected positions I've considered, and that's because it matches my professional experience. This is a chance for me to take those skills that I've learned over the last almost decade serving student athletes, coaches, administrators, university professionals, and transition that into serving all of Boone County. I am enthusiastic about protecting those documents and want to make sure that we have them for years and years to come. I was in the office the other day looking at something in my property. And as Shannon said, it is spectacular to be in that vault, to look through those old records, literally touching history. I was a history major in college, wanted to teach history, and just the awe that you feel in those records. I want to protect those.
And I'll ask the same question for Nick Knoth. And I want to say to all of the candidates who will come up here later and to our candidates, our listeners online are asking, don't rush. Speak slowly. They want to hear what you have to say.
All right, so why recorder? I am a government nerd. That is the simplest way to put it. I spent my entire career, again, both in my personal and professional life, working around government. And I have seen this office, and I just see an incredible opportunity for this office to not just continue the legacy of Betty Johnson and Nora Dietzel as she retires, but to really build on it and evolve it into what it needs to be in the 21st century, whether that's through modernizing processes, ensuring equitable access, or for the position of recorder itself to evolve and become more than just a bureaucrat or an administrator, which it is foundationally, but it can be so much more. And I think going, as we've seen in the last decade, let alone the last few years, we need more of our elected officials, and we should expect more, and we should get that. And that's why I'm running.
We'll go to one of the questions, and some of these questions I think are going to be, you're going to say, well, I've already answered this, but let's we give you a chance to answer them in a different way, perhaps. And this is one of the questions from the league. Which of your qualifications do you want to emphasize for the voters? And this time we'll start with Bob Nolte.
I'd like to emphasize my ability to lead a team. So I've been part of great teams working at the university, not just sports teams, but within the athletic department, within our compliance office. So being able to effectively manage folks, to lead them forward, to make sure that people are getting the best possible they can when they come to work. You know, something that you spend a whole lot of time doing. It may not always be enjoyable, but we can find ways to make sure that people are feeling appreciated, have ways to grow, have them transition into additional responsibilities. So I want to, again, emphasize that team leadership, making sure that the next recorder is working with the staff to move them forward.
Same question, and that question is, which of your qualifications do you want to emphasize for the voters? Nick Knoth.
My ability to build bridges and work with a very diverse community. In my previous positions, I have built partnerships and task forces across counties and across communities and within communities, ranging from groups like the NAACP to home builders, to realtors, to small businesses and nonprofits. And that is a perfect fit for this office. This office works with everybody from developers to an individual who is unbeknownst to them, suddenly inheriting a property that they need help deeding to themselves. I have done this, and that is representative in my endorsements. It's not, those endorsements are not a something to brag about, but rather an example of my proven track record of working with all of these communities in our county, in which we are very diverse, over 700 square miles, almost 200,000 people. We're diverse within Columbia. We're even more diverse within this county. And I've done that, and I will continue doing it in this position.
And again, I'll repeat the question. Which of your qualifications do you want to emphasize for the voters? Shannon Martin?
I think it's clear that I have a 4-year head start on training. These guys are gonna have to start at the bottom and work up, and I can start where I am and build. I already have a super relationship with the team. I come here tonight with their full support. And I'll be able to step into that role with them already backing me and knowing that this is the person that they want to take over.
Let's go to another question from the league, and we'll start with Nick on answering this one. What changes would you like to see in the Recorder of Deeds office?
Yes, so my 2 priorities for the office, which touch on this, is to modernize processes and ensure equitable access to all of our records and services. Modern process is more straightforward. We're talking about embracing technology, whether that's by putting more services online, digitizing records, or using modern technology more in the office itself. Equitable access is my passion and a big reason I'm running. The office itself is inherently inaccessible and inequitable. It is only accessible in its downtown location, the County Government Services Building, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. And again, we're a diverse community. We need to expand those hours, and we need to go to the people like our county clerk does, like our county collector does, to give folks the opportunity to use the services they pay for conveniently. Because again, we're a large county, and even within Columbia, we don't exactly have the best transit system to get around and for people to access the government services that they pay for, whether or not they can get to it.
All right, and Shannon Martin is next on the question. What changes would you like to see in the Recorder of Deeds office?
The first thing that I'd like to address is with iCounty. They wrote our software for us. I know Dave Mudd, and I've worked with him in the past. That program was written years ago, and I do believe that it just needs to be revisited to make sure we're not missing anything. It's a great program, and even one of our current deputies actually helped write that program. That program is now used in a lot of other counties, not just us, but I think it's old, and I think it needs to have some updates done to it to make it going into the future.
Again, I apologize for asking this just to one specific, but what is iCounty?
iCounty is the company that wrote the program
It's the program that you
we
used.
use. It's very specific to recording documents.
Okay, and finally, on this particular question, what changes would you like to see in the Recorder of Deeds office, Bob Noble?
So my priorities, making sure we're protecting those records, providing secure access to them, as well as continuing to provide great customer service for folks to come in the office. But additional thing I think the recorder's office can do is providing education to the public. It's something that I did in my role at Mizzou, where I was educating coaches, student athletes, and the public. But people need to know about the services offered. So for example, you can sign up with iCounty to have notifications for when there's a change in your title. We also want to let people know about HB 1662, which allows people with racially restrictive covenants to have them removed from their deeds. So going out into the public, making sure people are aware of how to access these resources in the office, online, however that may be, but really educating about what the Recorders does. I've tried to do that through my campaign, both on the doors and on our social media.
This question is kind of a follow-up, and at least 2 of you, and maybe all 3, have spoken about how wonderful it is to walk into this place and have these books. And it's like you can smell and see and touch. If you modernize an office like that and digitize it, aren't you losing that romanticism of real documents? And I guess we'll go in the same order we just did, since it's kind of related to your answers, Nick.
No, you're absolutely not, because we would not be destroying physical copies. We would really be digitizing those, as Shannon said, as the office consistently works on, but really prioritizing it to ensure both redundancy and things of that nature, whether it's security or making things easier to access online. So no, I don't think you'd be losing that, because the vault will still be there. We still have physical records, and I'm pretty sure that has to be a state statute by my knowledge. But it would, again, security and access would be improved.
Yes, I'm a Luddite. Go ahead, Shannon, your answer to the same question.
We get a lot of phone calls about people that want to search the records from home. That maybe they don't have the access to get to us. They live in Centralia and don't drive, and they need to read those records. And every day in some downtime, if you call it, we don't have much, but we work on those records and we add page after page after page, hand entering all of those records, double checking, triple checking, and making sure all the information that as they are in the old books are put on the computer. It's not ideal, but I mean, it is technology and that's where our lives are all headed. Everybody wants to be able to see those. And, but they still call us and they want to know how to search. And we still have to talk them through how to search and how to sign up. But everything is still there. All the records are still available.
Appreciate it. Bob Nolte, a final comment on this one?
Yeah, so having just done this for my property, I would have loved to be able to do as much as possible from my home. But at some point you do have to go in. I don't think we necessarily lose that awe. We just want to make it more efficient for getting the records that you need, whether it's historical research, whether it's trying to prove what land was owned when, making sure that those are available and accessible online. I don't think it really takes away from that in-person awe.
Thank you all for humoring me. Here's a question from one of the audience members, and Shannon Martin, you're first on this. The question is written, how do people justify paying a new county employee $90,000 a year versus $14 to $16 an hour simply because the first job mentioned is elected? Both people need to learn the job. Why is there such an inequity in salary? It has to do, I think they're taking aim at the salary of a recorder of deeds.
I think there's a huge learning process. So to stick someone into this position, making that type of money is kind of insane. It is a managing this position. They manage 6 employees. That's a huge undertaking. And they do need to be recognized for that. It is an upper level position. It's an elected official position. We don't really know why because of how it all started years ago, but yeah, I mean, definitely there has to be some sort of a variance between the two, because if you're a manager, then yes, and you're an elected official, you've been chosen by the people of the county. I do believe there needs to be a different salary for that and not starting out at the $14 to $16 an hour range.
Bob Nolte?
So the reason the recorder is elected is the way Missouri state statutes are set up. So when a county becomes a second-class county, it becomes big enough to need a separate recorder from the clerk of the court. That's when it becomes an elected official. I think all of the elected officials make the same pay because they're expected to manage the offices they're in charge of. They're expected to participate in all of the duties of an elected official and are treated the same. I think it's important, like Shannon said, to have people with management experience and people who have started in roles similar to the deputy recorder. So when I started at Mizzou, was in a customer facing administrative role, but I was able to move up from that, was promoted, wound up training that replacement and then managing them. So having that experience, I think really does dictate that additional payment.
Nick Canoth, your thought?
So I don't think there is an issue with the pay that the elected recorder each receives. Again, as was mentioned, their pay is the same as most of the other countywide elected officials. And really that is appropriate given its administrative duties and leadership position, especially if you put it in the scope of the private sector, it is far less. I think the real thing that we should look at and pay attention to in that question, as I've talked about on the campaign trail, and I don't think I'm alone on this, our county is known for its poor wages comparatively. And it is impressive that our county staff and the folks who actually do the hard work do such an incredible job for relatively poor pay compared to their, especially their private sector peers. Fortunately, the Boone County Commission issuing a retention bonus this year to help keep employees, and I believe they're doing a pay scale study to help raise those wages. I'm very happy to see that. It's a step in the right direction. And so what I want to say is, I think the issue should be less with what our elected officials are paid and more that our staff are not paid enough, and that we need to raise their wages.
Bob Nolte, you get first on this next question. How much does party affiliation matter in a recorder of deeds, race or office?
I've gotten this question a lot on the doors. So in addition to why is this elected, but really what makes you a Democrat and why are you running as a Democrat? I think it speaks to my values. You know how I will interact in the office. Have been a longtime Democratic volunteer, so I've knocked probably close to 5,000 doors for other Democratic candidates. Have been involved in the party, so it speaks to the values. It speaks to how I will do the job, respecting the employees in the office, but also interacting with our other elected officials, working with them on how we can move Boone County forward overall.
Nick Canoth?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. How much does the party affiliation matter in the recorder of deeds race or in the running of that office?
So I would say to the question of how much does it matter, it depends on who you're talking to. I would argue that it shouldn't matter at all. All of our countywide positions should be nonpartisan, because really what we want is qualified people who are dedicated to good government and providing the best service for our tax dollars. Unfortunately, that's not the reality we live in. These are partisan positions due to our state constitution and the class of county that we are. And in that capacity, it was a no-brainer to choose to run as a Democrat. And to Bob's point, partially because of values, right? I think there would be a lot of folks who would agree that one party has of late, let's say, to put it lightly, lost its way. And so in terms of choosing a party affiliation and going off my past experience, again, for me, growing up as a poor kid who only, was able to go to college because of government grants and services, and even was fed and went to school thanks to government, I am never going to hesitate to be a Democrat.
Shannon Martin, same question for you. You're speaking from having experience in the office.
I'm gonna go at a customer service base. Whether one person walks in with one document or a title company comes in with 50, we're gonna treat them exactly the same from beginning to end, period.
Let us go to another question then. And again, if you have any questions, our time is almost up for this particular panel that we have of 4 tonight. I would like to ask, and I'll start with Nick Canoth on this. What have you learned about voters while campaigning for this race?
I think the number one thing I learned from voters is that they are, as I think a lot of folks are nowadays, increasingly overwhelmed by our politics. And I'll also add as a kind of a tangent that many are unaware or were and are becoming increasingly aware that there is an election coming up August 2nd. There are 3 people running for recorder of deeds, and it is a position that you vote for. And the reason we haven't had to think about that, which is a good thing for the most part, is that it hasn't truly been an open and competitive office in 50 years. Because Betty Johnson's tenure was very long in there, followed by Nora Dietzel. And so we just haven't had to worry about that, which again is a good thing. But I'd say again, people are stressed. That's what I've learned from voters, and what they're looking for are safe bets, sane people who have the proper experience and are going to do both a good job and be conscious of the diversity in our community, let alone our very large county.
Shannon Martin, the same question to you. What have you learned about voters?
I have learned that people are looking for kindness and being nice. And I know politics don't really go that route, but if you can take an extra mile and you can talk to someone and you can smile at them and you can kind of understand what they're going through, spend a couple of minutes with them, that's what people want these days. They don't want the negativity that comes out of this race. They want someone who can pump them up and be positive and shake their hands and walk their walk with them. And that's what I think people want in this day and age.
Bob Nolte, it's your turn. What have you learned about the voters while campaigning?
I'll echo both parts. They want kindness. They want to not have to worry about whether their deed is going to be stolen by somebody, whether there's going to be an issue. They want to trust that the recorder, even though they don't think about it all the time, is always there working for them. They want to know that they're being protected, and they want great customer service when they come into the office, because that's usually a really important time in their life, whether they're getting married or there's a death in the family and they need something to go to probate. So making sure that they're being provided those services. They don't want to have to think about it the way that we three have had to think about why we want to do this position.
Shannon Martin will be first on this one. What would you tell those that are in the recorder's office now, the workers that are in that office now, to expect if you're elected?
They can expect that I am going to show up for Boone County. I will be present in the office. I will take care of them. I know them. I've worked with all of them. We have one who's been there 35 years. The next 10, 8, 2 at 4, 1 at 8. We have longevity, and that takes working together as a team, not putting myself above them, but working beside them. And when times get busy, I'm going to be right there at that counter doing the same job that I do currently. I'm going to take care of them.
Same question. What would you tell those in the recorder's office working there now to expect if you're elected, Bob Nolte?
Similar to Shannon, I'm going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with them, making sure the work is being done, showing up every single day and working hard like I've done the last almost decade at Mizzou. We're going to work together to find ways to improve. I'm going to listen. I'm going to make sure that their ideas are being heard and that they're being advocated for. We've talked about pay inequality. We need to, pay them more. I'm going to be the one that's going to advocate for increases. I'm going to be the one that's standing there again, shoulder to shoulder with them at the beginning, learning the work, eventually pitching in where I can and making sure that that office is run as efficiently and effectively as possible.
Nick Knoth, your answer to the question.
Yeah, I'll echo what my two compatriots have said. I'm going to support them. At the end of the day, in every single office, it's the staff who is doing the most thankless work in our county as in any level of government. And as somebody who has spent their career in government, I am very well aware of that. They are the experts, and I'm going to support them, ensure they have their resources, the staffing and the pay and everything of that nature. And also to congratulate them on having done a tremendous job in Boone County and as one of the best recorded deeds offices in this state. But I'm also going to challenge them that there is room for improvement. And that is not an attack. That is not a negative thing. Betty Johnson served for about 40 years. If I'm elected and I serve for 50 years and some young man or woman comes after me and says we can do better, I will be happy to hear that, because we should always be continuously improving our services and what government does on behalf of the taxpayers. And so I will challenge our staff and myself included in that as a member of the team to say, okay, what can we do better, based on your experience.
We're going to go to the closing comments now. And again, these are three candidates. Democratic side, they will have a Republican who is not engaged in a primary, but the winner of the primary election early August from this group of three will represent the Democrats on the ballot for recorder of deeds for Boone County. So closing comments, those are a minute each. If you choose to take that, and we'll reverse the order from what we did in the opening comments. This would be reverse order as the names appear for this race on the ballot. So Nick Knoth, your closing remarks.
So again, I have spent my career working in government. I've seen the best of it, and I've certainly seen the worst of it. I've been a recipient in times of need and in good times of government services. I am running on the combination of my extensive government experience, and on top of that, I'm a licensed realtor and notary, which for an office that 90% of its dealings are around real estate transactions is particularly relevant. I am not asking anyone to take my word for it. Again, I have received 24 endorsements from local community leaders and elected officials, the mayors of towns outside of Columbia to our city council persons and school board members. And that is, again, proof, in my opinion, of my track record of actually getting things done, of bringing people together and solving problems and ensuring good government service. That is what I'm bringing to the table. I want to push this office into its next chapter to evolve and to become what I think and believe the city of Boone County needed to be.
Thank you, Nick Knoth. And now Bob Nolte, your closing remarks.
I want to reiterate my excitement for working with the great staff that we have in the recorder's office. I want to help them, make them better, have them make me better, and really work towards a increase in the ability that the recorder's office has to provide that great service that is expected by Boone County citizens. I'm thoroughly prepared to win this race in November, and then prepared as well to serve as recorder if elected. I want to make sure that citizens trust their recorder. They know that their documents are being protected, and they know that if there is an issue, the recorder and the staff are going to work really hard to help them out to make sure it gets solved. Again, I'm Bob Nolte. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Shannon Martin, your closing remarks, please.
I just want to add a few more numbers. In 2021, during the height of the pandemic, the recorder's office recorded 36,000 documents. No additional staff, no backlog. Every document that was brought into that office by walk-in, by electronic record, or by mail was processed that very same day. That's how outstanding we are. And I have been a part of that, and I will continue to be a part of that service that we provide to Boone County.
About it, let's thank our Democratic candidates for Boone County Recorder of Deeds. We are being asked by the radio stations, again, KFRU and KOPN, at least one of those stations wants to have a 2-minute transition period, and we need that anyway to reset the front. Our next candidates that we're going to ask to have come to the front are the candidates for the Associate Circuit Judge Division 10. They will be. Should we go back to our first? We can do that. All right, let's go to Presiding Commissioner, the Republican candidates for Boone County Presiding Commissioner. My mistake there, but we'll get those two candidates up and we'll be back. You're listening to the candidate forum from the Columbia Public Library presented by the League of Women Voters and the Columbia Public Library. Making it possible not only for us to have a room for the live audience in regard to our candidate forum tonight, but also making it possible that we could Zoom so that those of you who choose not to be here or who cannot be here are able to participate. And again, if you have questions that you want to ask of our candidates, and this is our second of 4 panels that we will have, then make sure you use that chat and we will be able to do the questions because they will be provided to me. And if you're listening on the radio stations, we also appreciate KFRU and KOPN with the radio coverage tonight. Did you two just meet? How about that? We need more candidate forms for the August primaries, don't we? What I was asking is the two candidates for the Republican side of the Boone County Presiding Commissioner. The Boone County Commission is an elected three-member governing body. It has a District 1 or a Southern Commissioner, a District 2 Northern Commissioner, and a Presiding Commissioner. The commission establishes county policy, approves and adopts the annual budget for all county operations, approves actual expenditures for each department, supervises the operations of public works, planning and zoning, building codes, human resources, purchasing, information technologies, and facilities and grounds maintenance. They also ensure countywide compliance with numerous statutory requirements and act as liaisons with county boards, commissions, and other governmental entities. Why would anybody have time to do all of that? The Republican candidates are Connie Leopard and James Pounds. The winner of this contest will have a Democratic candidate to go against in November. That's Kip Kendrick. Each candidate's going to have a 2-minute opening statement followed by some of the questions. If you were listening a while ago, it's the same routine that we did through the Recorder of Deeds and the League of Women Voters that provided some questions. We'll also have some questions from the in-person audience and Zoom questions. For our in-person audience, there are note cards on the chairs. If you have already used those or need new ones, let us know, and the league will get those to you. So after we have the opening comments of 2 minutes each, up to 2 minutes, then each candidate will be given 1 minute to answer each question. And then there'll be a 1 minute closing statement time. Candidates will give their opening statements in ballot order, and then we'll reverse that for the closing statement. So Connie Leopard, welcome. And we'd like to hear your opening remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the league for inviting us here this evening. And thank you, David, for being our moderator. I am a woman in construction, a small business owner of 40+ years here in Boone County, and a committed volunteer to multiple local, regional, and national nonprofit boards with executive leadership experience. So as to why you would want to do this job, I'm already doing a lot of work. So I appreciate the fact that our commission is committed to this community and to this county. I appreciate the fact that our citizens are engaged and want to know what the commission is doing. As a volunteer on the NAWIC National Board, I served as the national president of the National Association of Women in Construction, where I currently serve as their national parliamentarian. I received years of training in the legal and fiduciary responsibilities for boards and commissions, as well as strategic planning and organizational management. That is all training and experience that will serve you well. I've served since 2019 on the Boone County Children's Services Board, which is a commission appointed position within the county. So I'm already plugged into county business there and serving you very, very well. As a woman in construction with my experience in interpreting plans and specifications, as well as contract document specialist, those are all transferable skills that will serve you very well in planning and zoning and infrastructure, roads and bridges. So thank you for asking the questions this evening. I look forward to answering them.
Thank you. James Pounds, your opening remarks, please.
Good evening. Thanks to the League of Women Voters and the library for having us. And only have one slight criticism of, we want to have a nonpartisan, all these county offices are nonpartisan. Why don't we invite all the candidates to go and participate in these debates instead of going and just having the Republicans or the Democrats? I mean, what's the issue with that? Why can't we do that? But on to the reason why I want to run for county commissioner is because I think that the county commission has the greatest control over controlling the cost of building in Boone County. It has the greatest control over our taxation and has the greatest control over our scope and detail of property. And that is the reason why I want to serve on the county commission. I think that it's been poorly managed over the years, and I think we need to see a change. And I'd like to have somebody there on the county commission that understands what affordable housing is and why we don't have any in Boone County. And my reason for that is It's because county commission, they absorb, they adopt, they comply with every building code, every code that comes out. And the building codes in this country are wrote on the East Coast. And that works great for the East Coast, but we're not the East Coast. And the reason why we need to go and change some of this stuff is that it's costing us. It costs us a bunch of money. It costs, when you add scope and detail to a project, you add cost to it. And that's part of the problem. That's why we're in the shape that we're in Boone County. And that's why, and it affects the poor and the elderly worse because their taxes go up. It costs more money.
You can finish your thought.
It costs more money to build it. If it costs me more money to build a house, then the taxes are increased and the insurance is increased, the sales tax, everything across the board. You add scope and detail to a project, everything goes up to it. And that I don't think we've had anybody on the county commission for decades that have any understanding of what they have done to Boone County and why it has become so expensive to build in Boone County and why there is no affordable housing in Boone County.
Let's end it there because I think you're going to have a chance in some follow-up questions to expand on that idea if you choose to. I will say that the league will hold forums of contested races. And whoever wins your race will be invited to participate in an October forum against the Democratic candidate. I think I get your idea, and it kind of picks up on what the recorder of deed candidates were saying, which is why not make this nonpartisan? With that in mind, then I'll ask, and Connie Leopard, you're first on the first question. How would a Republican presiding commissioner govern the county differently than a Democrat?
Governed differently, the commission has their authority by state statute. My personal opinion, it has nothing to do with the political party. It's about your professional experience, your leadership experience. I have executive leadership experience. And Boone County is a very, very diverse county with multiple types of people and multiple income levels. And we need the commission focus on the whole of the county, which that's why I said, I believe that the commission is. We're supposed to focus on the whole of the county, and it really should have nothing to do with what political party you're affiliated with. It's about the job, keeping that job, responsibilities, being dedicated to that job, showing up every day, working very, very hard. Your fiduciary responsibilities that I've been trained on is you set aside your personal opinion on many issues to focus on what's in the best interest of the whole of the county, which is exactly what I would do.
James Pound, the same question about the difference of a Republican presiding commissioner governing the county differently than a Democrat.
Well, since Keith Snar, we've had a Democrat as presiding commissioner other than Keith Snar for 3 decades. And I think that part of the problem is, I think Democrats think just a little bit differently than Republicans. I think and the reason why I identify as a Republican is I'm more fiscally conservative. I look for ways that we can go and save money and go and keep from increasing the cost of living in Boone County and making it where the poor and the elderly have a place to live. I want them to be included in our community. I don't want them to be, bought out. I don't want them to be forced out of Boone County because of cost. And our property taxes have gone up. Our insurance has gone up on these houses, but cost of building these houses has gone up. That's where I stand on it.
James Pound, you'll be first to answer this question, and I think it's going to follow up very nicely with what you've already presented to us this evening, but I want to give you this question from the league. What is the greatest challenge facing the Boone County Commission, and what action do you propose for meeting that challenge? Perhaps you've presented what you think is a major challenge. It has to do with cost of living and houses.
Well, I mean, I agree. And then just like today, I paid $5.09 a gallon for diesel for my pickup and, run my equipment. you know, it's got to the point now, I'm hoping that I've been preaching this for quite some time, but now I'm hoping that now I'll be listened to. That we need to go and control government and make it where they don't look at every opportunity to raise our taxes and increase our cost of living in Boone County. I mean, I'm a strong opponent of that. You know, my grandmother and my grandfather, they had trouble, you know, paying their property taxes and things like that. And, you know, insurance has increased, property taxes increased, sales taxes have increased, and, you know, the root of all that is government. And as presiding commissioner, I think I would have the greatest effect as being able to control that and maybe even reduce it. Maybe, you know, of course, I'm just one person on a board of 3, but I would strongly be an advocate for doing that.
I'll follow up real quickly if I may, and I'll give Connie Leopard the same opportunity should she choose to take it. But so what to bring in the less or to reduce cost, are you seeing that you could still provide the same services or would things be cut?
Well, to start with, I served on the Boone County Building Code Commission for several years, several different terms. And at every turn, I was voted down. I tried to control costs on that, and I finally just, you know, when it came time to renew my membership on that board, I just let it go, and they assigned David Weber to that position. And, you know, me and David have a completely different view on how to operate codes and stuff like that. And, you know, that's where it starts. It starts, you know, when you go and add rules and regulations, you increase rules and regulations to the point where, and add a bunch of costs and scope and detail to these projects, be it building a house, building a road, building a commercial building, building a Wendy's, whatever it is. When you add scope and detail, it, that's what it costs. I mean, it just adds cost.
Connie Leopard, I'm going to give you extra time should you choose to take it. It is a 2-part question, so I think that's fine. What's the greatest challenge facing the Boone County Commission, and what action do you propose for meeting that challenge?
As a business owner and with executive leadership experience that I have, I'm always looking forward. And I know right now, and I agree with Jimmy on this point, on fiscal responsibility. That's why I am on the Republican ticket, because I do believe in fiscal responsibility, accountability, and transparency. And I will agree that I'm looking down the road. I know we're flush with cash right now and everybody feels really good, but we are have been in the construction industry for more than 2 years dealing with very high rates of inflation. We just received material cost increase notices again this week in our industry. I'm in the commercial industry sector. Those costs over time are going to eat into the county budget. There is no question. We are already dealing with workforce issues, which is going to increase wages. Our county budget right now, if you look at the 2022 budget that was prepared, one of the stipulations that the budget was based on was that the inflation would level out from last year, and it has exploded. I believe looking forward, we've got to look at our fiscal responsibilities on what it's going to look like if we hit into a hard recession. We don't know, but I can tell you that the experts were saying it was transitory. We could tell you in the construction industry dealing with it for 2 years, there was no way the inflation we were dealing with was transitory. So is it going to be a hard landing or soft? I have no idea. I'm not an economist, but as a businesswoman, as a business owner in this county, I've lived through recessions that were very difficult. There's going to be difficult decisions to make, and I'm prepared to make those decisions.
You give her 2 minutes. Okay, we'll move on to another question from the league. And Connie Leopard, you're first on this. Leadership skills are essential for the role of presiding commissioner. What leadership skills and leadership experiences do you offer for this role? I think you've addressed some of these, and what prompts you to run for office at this time?
As the National Association of Women in Construction president, I represented women from every sector of the construction industry. Union, non-union, every discipline within the industry, north, south, east, west, Guam, Hawaii, Alaska, every ideology you can imagine. I was able to do that very successfully because I kept the eye on what the mission of our association was all about. And it was the people that you were serving. So executive leadership and being a leader on the commission, that's one of the things that excites me the most, because you're able to, whatever is not within the authority of the commission to do, you, because of the liaisons and all the different boards that you serve on, you're connected with the people. And I am so excited to be connected with the people. That's who I am. I've been to over 130 community events since mid-January because I love being with people, the whole county. And I will continue to do that. And that, I think, is executive leadership.
I'm going to repeat the question for James Pounds. Leadership skills essential for the role of presiding commissioner. What leadership skills and leadership experiences do you offer for this role? And what prompts you to run for office at this time?
Well, as the head janitor for James Pounds Construction, I go and monitor and do everything I can to go and save money to make it where I can build affordable housing in Boone County. And it's very hard to do that. And thankfully, my CEO gives me the latitude to go and do that kind of stuff. And that's the reason why I think the problem with it is, I think you're going to get into executive positions is you get to the point where you don't listen to the janitor. You don't listen to the people that are actually doing the job. And that's not an issue for me because I do all of it. I wear all the hats down there. And I'm a very good janitor. I do a very good job with that. And I have done a very good job at saving James Pounds Construction's money and maintaining fiscal responsibility.
This is a question that the recorder of deed candidates got. I'm going to rephrase it just a bit because I think this is maybe the gist of this question. It has to do with the salary. You're running for a public office. It's pretty easy to find out what the salary is for presiding commissioner or sheriff or recorder of deeds. So the question, as it was posed earlier, was how do you justify paying someone who is freshly employed, as in your case, presiding commissioner, the salary that you would get when you are newbies on the job and others who have been working for the county and other positions are maybe making $14 to $16 an hour. James Pounds, it's a question about the salaries that are paid to county.
Could you go and repeat the opening line about the job description for presiding commissioner?
Yeah.
It's quite a little bit. And and you have to put up with a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of people that you have to deal with. And honestly, my position on that is if you got to complain about what the county commissioner makes, then maybe you should run for office and see exactly how much fun it is to go and actually do that job. It's I've known several of them, and they don't go and speak very favorably of it. And if anything, they probably feel that they're underpaid. So that's how I feel about it.
Thank you. Connie Leopard, same question.
As a small business owner that is on call almost 24/7, that's the way I look at the commission office, the commissioners. I believe being plugged into the county, as you mentioned, all of the duties of that office and what the commissioners have to do and should be doing, being engaged with the folks and being out among the whole entire county. That's a big job. And you should be engaged every single day with your constituents and on call, which that's why I have my phone number on my campaign materials, because I am that kind of a person that I would be working 40 plus, 50 plus, 60 hours, which I'm used to. So.
Candidate Pounds mentioned a moment ago something about the high price of diesel fuel and I think Connie Leopard also mentioned something about the costs and where we are as far as inflation is concerned. This question goes to Connie Leopard first. I mean, what kind of power does the Boone County presiding commissioner have over these issues of inflation and price?
You don't, it's out of your control. But what you do have authority as a commission, and you're one of three, so it's not the presiding commissioner by his or herself, it's the commission as a whole looks at the whole of the county budget, working with all of the county officials, looking at those costs, working with the purchasing departments, and doing the best job that they can. And if times require cutting, that's what would happen, because unlike the federal government, the county does not have a printing press in the basement of the county building. So it's obvious that we have to work within the budget that's provided to us by our revenue.
James Pound, same question.
Well, I mean, I think Connie explained it very well. I mean, you want somebody on the county commission that is gonna be looking at these budgets and, you know, asking these different department heads, hey, is there anything in your department that we can save money on? And it's not just that, it's just like when you go in like the road and bridge department, you know, the guy running the road grader, he might have a pretty good idea that might be able to save the county money, and nobody's listening to him. Maybe we ought to go and start talking to these people, I mean, that are actually physically doing the job every day, and see if we can learn something, learn a new way of doing something. That's where I'm at. I don't have any problem with getting dirty. It's just part of the job. And I think that's what this job needs. It needs somebody that's actually hands-on, that doesn't sit in the office down there at the county building and get out and talk to people.
James Pounds will be first on this question. It kind of hits on some of the things we've been talking about. How well do you know the Northern Commissioner and the Southern Commissioner, and how do you think you'd get along with them and working as one of three?
Oh, I think I'd get along really good with them. I mean, I think I'm probably, they're probably secret fans of mine. And, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if I don't get a vote or two from either one. Right, Jenny?
One of the commissioners.
Now, Janet.
Those who are listening by radio or by Zoom.
Jimmy and Martini, you get Martini?
Connie Lambert, how well do you know the Northern and Southern Commissioners, and how do you anticipate working with them?
Actually, I know them very well. I've been attending the commission meeting since mid-January. I think I've missed 4. So I've been observing how the commission works and the business that's brought before the commission. I've also worked Janet I'm on the Boone County Children's Services Board, and she's the commission liaison to that board. And we've had numbers of conversations on multiple things over the years. So Justin, I'm getting to know. I haven't known him for very long, but I know them all very well, and we'll get along just fine.
Only time for maybe one other question, and then we'll go to the closing comments. Connie Leopard first on this one. Other than what you talked about so far, could be roads, it could be public safety, it could be Columbia, Boone County relations, it could be more about development or public health. Prioritize 1 or 2 of those in a short answer and tell us, just pick one of those topics and address it as far as where that would fit into your priorities as a presiding commissioner.
I picked public safety is a big issue, and it falls into workforce because 911 centers down folks right now. And sometimes that's not just money. Sometimes there's shift work that are involved. So there's barriers to folks applying and being able to be hired in the position because of childcare issues. There's a lot of peripheral things that could be a barrier for folks who work in some of those jobs. But I would public safety and also infrastructure. I believe is really big. Broadband expansion across the county is huge. It just was something that came up during the pandemic that was an issue for kids being able to log in on computers for classes, and that became a really big issue for the county.
James Pounds, other than what you've already addressed as main concerns and what your priorities are, choose 1 or 2 of these: roads, public safety, Columbia, Boone County relations, development, or public health. That's a priority for you as presiding commissioner.
Building codes and develop. I think we can make a vast improvement in both those areas. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. And that's where those would be my 2. They'll be my little pets. I'll have one under each arm.
We have time now for closing statements, and we're going to go in the reverse order as we did at the opening statements. So James Pounds, your closing remarks.
Closing remarks. I'm James Pounds. I'm running for Boone County Presiding Commissioner. I'm not here asking for any money. I don't want you to put a sign in the yard. I want your vote. I need your vote. If you're gonna give me your vote, you wanna go and make some changes in Boone County, you think that the taxes are too high, you know, and the cost of living in Boone County is too high, I would appreciate your vote. James Pounds, Construction.
Connie Leopard, your closing remarks.
Thanks for allowing me to be here this evening to introduce myself. I just want to make one statement. There's only one reason why I'm running for the position of presiding commissioner, and that's because I grew up here. I'm connected to this community. I have a heart to serve. And the only reason I'm doing it is because of folks in this room and all of Boone County. I want to see you serve very, very well. I have the skills, the expertise, and I have the work hard ethic to be there every single day plus to serve the citizens of the county. I ask for your vote, Connie Leopard, presiding commissioner of Boone County. Thank you very much.
Let us show our appreciation for both candidates. The Iowa Republican candidates for Boone County presiding commissioner, James Pounds and Connie Leopard. We're going to take a 2-minute break here as we reset the front panel. And we'll get ready to go with our next panel, going to be the 2 candidates that are running for Associate Circuit Judge. You're listening to the Candidate Forum live from the Columbia Public Library. Days away from the primary election, which will be in early August, less than a month away. And so we are appreciative of the candidates who are spending some of their evening with us tonight, and everybody who is participating here in the room here at the library, and also by Zoom, and also by listening on KFRU and KOPN. Thank you for taking an interest in these races. We are doing contested races that are going to involve candidates that are directly related to Boone County. You'll have a ballot that will have a lot to choose on it, because this is a ballot where you will also doing a primary for US Senate and also for House. And so it's going to be an interesting ballot. It should draw, I looked at the numbers from the county clerk's website. It could be up to 40% possibly voting in an August primary with this kind of a ballot. If it had a ballot that didn't have some of these national races on it, we're looking at 6 to 10%, but there'll be a lot of voters on this. And one of the issues that they'll be voting on is going to be for the Associate Circuit Judge Division 10. These are the Democratic candidates for that position, Angela Peterson and Kayla Jackson Williams. The winner of this race will be the judge. There is no Republican candidate on the ballot in November, and I think these candidates, either one would receive at least one vote on November's ballot to be that person. Their names will show up there, but it'll be unopposed. Qualifications for Associate Circuit Judge. The candidate must be 25 years old, licensed to practice law in Missouri, a qualified voter, and a resident of the county of the circuit. Each Associate Circuit Judge may hear and determine certain cases or classes of cases specified by law. All criminal misdemeanors and infractions are heard and decided by the Associate Circuit Judge. In felony criminal cases, the Associate Circuit Judge conducts a preliminary hearing to determine whether there is probable cause to find that a felony has been committed and that the defendant committed it. If probable cause is found, the defendant is bound over for trial in the circuit court. Associate Circuit Judges also may hear all civil cases, and they serve a term of 4 years. The 13th Judicial Court encompasses Boone and Callaway counties. There are 4 circuit judges and 6 associate circuit judges. Our candidates tonight are in the Division 10 of the 13th Court. We're going to again welcome our candidates and give them each 2-minute opening statement time, and then we'll go through the questions. If there are questions that the audience here in the library room have, then make sure that you catch the attention of a league member and they will bring the questions to me. If you're listening on Zoom and you would like to use the chat for a question, do so, and those questions will come to me also. So we'll go in the order that they are on the ballot. And so that means Angela Peterson, welcome. You may present your opening remarks.
Thank you. I am Angela Peterson. I am a candidate for Associate Circuit Judge, Division 10. I am originally from St. Louis. I came to Columbia in 1991 to attend the University of Missouri-Columbia. I graduated from Mizzou in 1994 with a Bachelor of Science in Accountancy. I graduated in 1996 with a Master of Accountancy. I graduated in 1999 with a Juris Doctor. I passed the bar also in 1999. I began practicing law in 2000 at Mid-Missouri Legal Services, and that's where I spent the bulk of my career. For the last 12 years, from 2010 until 2022, I was litigation director, so second in command at Mid-Missouri Legal Services. I now work at Columbia Family Law Group. I am in court on a regular basis. I was in court just today on an adoption case, which is actually one of the happier cases that I get to go to court on. I am asking for your vote on August 2nd because I have 22 years of experience as a litigator in this community. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and thank you all for your attention.
Angela Peterson, thank you. Now, Kayla Jackson-Williams, welcome. Thank you for being here. We'd like to hear your opening remarks.
Good evening, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters as well. I heard you earlier say, make sure that we speak slowly and clearly. And already I feel like I'm not following directions, so I'm going to try to slow it down a little bit. So my name is Kayla Jackson-Williams. I too am from St. Louis, and I have been in Columbia for almost 10 years now. It's my daughter and I, and we absolutely love it here. It's the only home that she's known, and it's the only home that I intend for her to know. I started my career out as a family law attorney before I transitioned to the public defender's office, where I practiced in every court room in this county. I also took conflict cases out of Callaway County occasionally, and occasionally I would also appear in Randolph County for other matters. I'm currently practicing in civil litigation, and I have been there since 2020. I'm also an adjunct professor at the law school, where I teach client interviewing and counseling. And so when people ask me, like, what does that even mean? I tell them that I teach people how to talk to people. So I teach my students how to have interactions with clients and how to do so in a way that's meaningful and in a way that will actually have an effect in a positive way. I teach them how to put their biases aside and how to understand what someone is truly trying to translate to them without them having to truly know a person wholly before being willing to help and truly show that they care. I am a member of the Missouri Supreme Court's Commission for Racial and Ethnic Fairness, but in particular, the Juvenile Justice Subcommittee. Because Division 10 does work with the juvenile courts, that is one of the primary reasons that I am going after this seat, and why one of the primary reasons I believe that I would be the perfect candidate for this role. And so I know we're gonna have a lot of questions, and I just ask that you listen with open hearts and minds and really get to know us. So thank you.
Thank you, Kayla Jackson Williams, and I'm trying to remind myself to speak slowly too, so we'll work on that together. We'll start with the first question. It goes to Angela Peterson. What courtroom skills do you have to make a good judge?
I have the skills of listening. Part of what I've done and part of what I do now is talk to people every day. I have had probably tens of thousands of conversations with clients over my 22-year career. What judges do, I think what their primary function is to listen. They listen to the evidence, they try to determine credibility, and they apply law to those facts. I have been in front of over 50 judges in my career throughout mid-Missouri, and I have seen many different judges. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I've learned something from every one of those appearances over the past 22 years. And that's one of the things that makes me uniquely qualified to be judge.
Same question. What courtroom skills do you have to make a good judge? Kayla Jackson Williams.
So as a public defender, I handled hundreds of cases at any given time and all simultaneously. I have had 9 jury trials in this county alone and countless number of preliminary hearings that he spoke of earlier. I've had bench trials in the family courts, as well as bench trials in the adult abuse and neglect courts. I am a mock trial coach at the University of Missouri School of Law, where I teach courtroom skills. And so I understand what it is to be a litigator, to be in the courtroom all of the time, to do every single stage of a trial. But I also believe that I have the knowledge and the skill base to take on any type of case with my diverse legal background and be able to not only listen, but show that I'm understanding the law, applying it appropriately, and doing what needs to be done in order for justice to be served.
This question is going to go to Kayla Jackson Williams first. What thoughts or emotions do you anticipate having the first time someone would address you as judge?
So I believe in manifestation. And so because I believe in manifestation, while I'm not judge yet, I'm going to say that I will be. So I want to just hear that word all the time. So when I wake up in the morning, Kayla, you're going to be judged. So I hear myself say it all the time. And while that sounds funny and it's cute, it really is for me something that you're not going to have your dream become a reality if you're not speaking your dream into existence yourself. So I know that when it actually happens, I'll probably ignore it the first time because I won't believe it. But then I'll actually realize that it is real, and I'd probably just smile and just truly be happy that a dream came true.
Angela Peterson, same question to you. What do you anticipate as a thought or emotion that you would have the first time someone would come up to you and say, judge?
Well, the first thing that I would do would be to make sure that that person is standing up, right? So I would hope that somebody next to me that would say, everybody please rise. Seriously though, I would recognize it as a real honor. I would recognize it as a culmination almost of my service to the community. What I've done at Mid-Missouri Legal Services is represent people who would otherwise be unable to afford an attorney. And so I believe that I've shown my commitment to the community. If I then receive the respect and honor that a judge receives, I would say that I've earned it, quite frankly.
Angela Peterson, you get the first go at this question. What has been the most challenging legal case or one of them that you've worked on?
I have worked on a lot of cases over the years. The ones that stand out to me the most are the ones where we have a child that has been a victim of sexual assault or domestic violence. The times when the judge comes down from the bench, sits at us with counsel table and interviews that child. There are stories that you hear that only come from children that you cannot forget. and helping those families through that is one of the things that stands out to me most. Just some of those statements from those children that are going through that difficult time.
Question is, what has been the most challenging or among the most challenging legal cases you've worked on? And this is for Kayla Jackson Williams.
That's a hard question for me because as a public defender, I saw so many things come into my office. I heard Angela speak about sexual assault, and so like, of course, those cases come to mind, and think of a 5-year-old saying that daddy takes blame. That phrase will forever be with me. And it is something that no parent, no one ever wants to hear. So of course, that's one moment that stands out. But then I think one of the bigger moments is my very first 8 felony jury trial was a 17-year-old charged with a felony and an unclassified felony and was looking at life in prison. And getting 2 acquittals during that trial was definitely the most amazing experience. But also just the ability to connect with his mom, talk her through the process, and really let her know that I was a person who cared about her child and that I wanted what was best for him as well as justice for everyone would definitely stand out as well.
We will stick with you for answering the next question. It is another League of Women Voters question. A judge has latitude in establishing guidelines when dealing with children regarding abuse, protection, and guardianship. And you both just spoke on this matter. Those are some of the toughest cases. What in your background prepares you to make the best decisions in these complex and emotional cases?
So again, I started out in family law, and in my very first bench trial actually was a case where we had to deal with these similar issues. And I believe my experience in that case shaped my entire view of how that system works. And so I know that in going into these types of situations, there are factors, there are considerations that have to be looked at. And I believe that I would have the ability to do so. In addition to that, I tell people that while I may not have as many years of experience, I have a lot of personal experience in dealing with situations such as this. While I am a single parent, I have one of the most amicable parenting plans out there, in that even my child's not here today, which is really weird for me, but she's in Chicago with her dad because it's a part of our parenting plan. And it's knowing and understanding what's in the best interest of the child as well as the legal precedent that's set before you and making your decisions. And I know that I'd be able to follow it.
Those who are not in here, I'm not watching, that's Kayla Jackson Williams. So now we turn to Angela Peterson. The same question. Again, it's from the league. Judge has the latitude in establishing guidelines when dealing with children regarding abuse, protection, and guardianship. What in your background prepares you to make the best decisions in these complex and emotional cases?
22 years of experience handling these cases, and I've handled some of the worst cases. I have had bench trials that have lasted over a number of days because they are so complex. I have had bench trials that have involved multiple attorneys, multiple experts, and so I have also been on the receiving end of a lot of judgments. When a judge issues a decision, I'm the one that has to go back and explain that decision to my client. Because I've been practicing law in this area for so long, I've been around long enough to see my clients out in the community, to have their children come back to talk to me later as adults. And everything that you learn through all of that is what prepares me to be the best candidate for the Division 10 judgeship.
Peterson, you will be answering this question. And this seems to come up, and I think it's because of these forums, we've had judge candidates before, and it's a good question because it speaks to the fact that you two are on the Democratic ticket. I think some people are bothered by the fact that judges are aligned with a political party. And the question is handed to me, should judges be non-politically aligned so bias and opinions come into play less? I'll just ask your opinion about that, please.
As a judicial candidate, I do not intend to express an opinion on that. What I will say that I have seen that it can be confusing to people as I'm out and I'm talking to the community. They want me to express an opinion. Certainly in light of the Dobbs decision, people believe that I think a certain thing because of the fact that I have to declare a party in order to run for office. The nature of a judge is that he or she has to put aside whatever their personal opinions and beliefs are in order to apply the law and to do what the job calls for. So again, I will not express an opinion as to whether or not this should be partisan. I will just say that the nature of the job itself should be nonpartisan. For instance, the office that I'm in now, we do a lot of gender changes, and you cannot guess based on a judge's political affiliation whether or not they're going to accept those. I've been surprised at which judges will do them and which judges will not.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Now, Kayla Jackson-Williams, the same question to you about running political as a candidate with I'll get a specific political party and how that factors into your thoughts about running for this position.
I too will not offer an opinion on that. Just because of I mean, honestly, as a judicial candidate, we can't speak to certain things. And unfortunately, that is one of those questions that we just can't speak to. However, I will agree with Ms. Peterson in that as a judge, you are nonpartisan, which is why we're not allowed to have opinions about certain things. And so while we are required to be on a political ticket in order to be elected, that does not change our ultimate opinions when it comes to deciding a case. And that's because cases are decided on case law, precedent that's set before you, statutes, and a number of other things that we have to abide by. And so as a candidate, I will say that my personal beliefs should not be a factor in whether or not I'm going to follow the law to the T, whether or not I'm going to listen, care, show genuine interest in everyone who is coming before me, and truly put my best foot forward every day.
Well, this question may not have an answer from either of you then. I'm going to ask this anyway. This is from one of our participants here in the library. Can you explain how the courts need to better address and respond to individuals with behavioral health issues who are involved in the justice system? I don't know whether that seems to me that's broad enough that you might, as a judge, be handling that. And we go to Kayla Jackson-Williams first.
I'm going to skirt the question a little bit, and I'm going to say that in Boone County, we have a number of treatment courts and a number of programs that address the issues of drug dependency, alcohol dependency, mental health issues. And I believe that these programs can broaden their horizons and have more flex to them to a sense. And when I say that, I'm thinking specifically of Callaway County, because in 2017, Callaway County developed a family treatment court. And so for Callaway County, what this meant was that they now have a family treatment court for their family court. So if parents come in with substance abuse issues or behavioral mental health issues, they now have access to these same treatment services that you would have access to with the drug courts or the treatment courts, but without the criminal component being necessary. And I do believe that Boone County would benefit from something similar. And it's something that I've already discussed with Commissioner Clevenger, if elected, as well as Powerhouse Community Development, and working with preparing a grant for Boone County to have that type of program because it was a grant funded program for Callaway.
Thank you. Angela Peterson, should I repeat this?
Yes, please.
Please. Okay. Can you explain how the courts need to better address and respond to individuals with behavioral health issues?
I agree with Ms. Jackson-Williams. Boone County, the 13th Circuit has been on the forefront of treatment courts. And I think we've seen it in the community overall as a positive thing. I remember when Judge Christine Carpenter began drug court, and it has been a successful program. And since then, we've seen the courts adopt more and more. I think now they have a mental health treatment court. So I think those programs can just expand. I will also say that I have represented a lot of people with diagnosed mental illness. I have been impressed by some judges with the way they deal with that. I have been unimpressed with some judges and the way that they handle that. So because of what I've dealt with, I've represented clients who have needed not just me as an attorney, they've also needed a guardian ad litem because of their mental capacity. And so I am familiar with working with people with mental illness, and I understand that it's something that has to be addressed. And I think the court is doing a good job of that, and it should be expanded upon.
We'll do one more question and then we'll have closing comments. And Angela Peterson is first on this one. Share one or two of the experiences that stick in your mind that you've had while campaigning.
I have been pleasantly surprised most of the time while campaigning. One of the things that I have been surprised by is how few people, one, pay attention to the judicial races, and two, how little they know about what a judge actually does. I have been asked about speed bumps. So I have been somewhat disappointed, I guess. But it's also been an awakening for me, because a lot of times I am in this community of lawyers and we all care a whole lot about what's going on in the court. And so for me to be one of the people that gets to educate the community on that is a positive thing. And I hope, certainly in light of all the questions that I've had, in light of the Dobbs decision, I hope that that's putting it more on the forefront, that we have some choice in how decisions get made. And that starts with
I've had so many great experiences. I love people. I love to talk to people, which is probably why I teach a class about talking. And I've had so many positive interactions with door knocking and canvassing and just really allowing people to get to know me. One of the experiences that sticks out the most is I have a tenacious 5-year-old daughter, and she loves to door knock with me until her feet get too tired. And she loves to hand out the stickers. And I am just always so happy to see how many of the people in our community are so welcoming of her. And it just allows me to know that like our community is surrounded by so many good people, and that regardless of what happens with this race, I've met a lot of people in our community who are absolutely awesome. And their interactions with my child and I are what stick out the most, because it's truly been a welcoming experience.
Let's go to closing remarks now, and we'll start with Kayla Jackson Williams. You have a minute to add anything that you haven't talked about so far, or reiterate what you have.
So one of the things that I always say, I say that the first day of class, it's something that my professor said to me on my first day of law school, who happens to be my treasurer, which is Bob Bailey. And that's that people do not care what you know until they know that you care. And I think having a caring spirit, a caring heart, and a genuine caring nature about you will allow you to succeed in so many different ways. And I truly do care about our community. I care about the people who I represent on a daily basis. Again, I've had experience in family, civil, and criminal law. And so I truly believe that with my diverse legal background and the fact that I'm in this weird subset of individuals, because I refuse to be a millennial, even though I was born in the 80s, but I'm not quite Gen X. And I say that because I'm in this weird gap of individuals who are grown enough to understand right from wrong, but young enough to understand some of the decisions that these younger youth are making, and being able to translate that to the others. And I feel like I'm a perfect gap bridge builder. Oh my gosh. And I really truly believe that having a different perspective on the bench is going to be extremely important, and having a different perspective from someone with an immense amount of in-courtroom experience and quality in-courtroom experience is going to be important.
Angela Peterson, your closing remarks, please.
Division 10 right now is exclusively family law. The entire docket is divorces, custody, juvenile cases. And that has been my experience for 22 years. And I want to speak specifically on that. I'm not talking to you in generalities and just saying, well, I've got a lot of experience without telling you exactly what that means. I'm being specific for a reason. That's one of the things that I do with my clients that I think is important. People need clarity, and that's my clarity. The other thing I'll say is I am a single mother of 4. I am thankful tonight for my 2 babies being here, my youngest 2 children. They are all born and raised in Columbia. The oldest 3 are graduates of Hickman High School. The youngest just finished at Ridgeway Elementary. My daughter that's here tonight is an Army soldier, active duty. She's normally stationed at Fort Bragg. She is here because she's about to deploy to, I think they call it Qatar now. I say Qatar. So I'm glad that she is here. I'm thankful for her service. I have another daughter who is also in service. She is a teacher at West Middle School here in Columbia. So Dr. Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I have shown you through my commitment to vulnerable citizens in this community, and I've done it for 22 years. I've shown it with my children now being engaged in service as well. Thank you for your time tonight. I ask for your vote on August 2nd, 2022.
These are the candidates for Associate Circuit Judge, Division 10. You can apply. Next up, we'll have the Democratic candidates for the 47th Missouri State Representative seat in Jefferson City. We'll take a 2-minute break. We are back at Columbia Public Library for tonight's forum hosted by the library, and done a great job of doing the technical side of this and providing us the area to be with our live audience. It is a full room, and also those of you who are watching on Zoom and those listening on KFRU and KOPN. And we also want to thank the League of Women Voters for the great job that they do of bringing these events to us so that we can have a chance to learn about those who take that extraordinary step of putting themselves out there in an election. Most of us will never do that, and it is something for them to do it, and we appreciate your willingness to do so. Next, we're going to have the 2 candidates on the Democratic side for Missouri State Representative for the 47th District. The candidates are Adrian Plank and Shemin Schwab. The winner of this race will face Republican John Martin in the general election. Each candidate is going to have time for a 2-minute opening statement, and then we'll also take as many questions as we can. The library closes at 9. They like us to be out of here as close to 8:30 as we can. And I've already got a whole lot of questions for both of you, so we'll go as quickly as we can, but if I don't ask your question, I apologize ahead of time. We're going to start with opening comments, and again, up to 2 minutes on these. Adrian Plank, thank you for being here, and we'd like to hear your opening statement.
I'd like to tell you both, first of all, the League of Women Voters, your advocacy for women's rights and voting rights is commendable, and you're needed and wanted to be appreciated. I'm sure I speak personally too on that. Anyway, I want to tell you about how I got here. I had my own business for 10 years, and it's a construction business. I put granite in motels all across the United States. So I did a lot of traveling. Business was good. Putting granite in motels is at the time was pretty lucrative. It paid well. And the bad parts of that deal are a recession that was created by a banking industry that was under-regulated and allowed to regulate themselves. And so in the Bush Republican recession, I call it, I spent time away from my wife, my child was young, and it was hard. You put your entire soul into business, and your employees always came first. And I truly believe if companies and corporations put their time into their employees, that you would have a better company. And so I lost that business. And I think my qualifications stem from small business ownership and the ups and the downs as part of what can destroy businesses and the people that they care about and their employees.
Thank you. And we will move from Adrian Plank now to Shamin Schwak for her opening remarks.
Good evening. First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters and Daniel Boone Library for sponsoring this event, and David for coming out of retirement to host, and to all the citizens that are here, both in the room, on Zoom, and listening via radio. My name is Shamin Schwak, and I am running to be your next Democratic state rep in the new 47th House District. I say new because the 47th district now covers is wholly encased in Boone County and covers Sturgeon, Harrisburg, Rocheport, and West Central Columbia, which is mostly the 4th Ward and a couple of slivers of the 5th and the 2nd Wards. I moved here 13 years ago with my husband for our small business, and we still have that business now. We have 2 kids, Zach and Jacob, who are here tonight. Zach is a junior at Hickman, and Jacob will be an 8th grader at West Middle. We are strong supporters of our public schools. We are a football family, a track family, and a golf family, which many of you know us from. But we are also a Catholic family that attends the Newman Center. And I come from a working class union family. My grandmother was an organizer for the AFL-CIO in the 60s, and she was just trying to get the same benefits for women in the factory as the men. And she believed in women having agency. So, and then my mother, she was a role model for my mother, and my mother, who is a retired federal attorney, was a role model for me. These women are my role models. They taught me service to family, community, and country are important. And this is why I want to be your next state rep. I've spent my adult life serving and volunteering in our community, fighting for agency and bodily autonomy, fighting for us to love who we want to love and to live in a community where we can all thrive and have living wages. And I will continue to fight for all of those things in Jeff City at the state legislature.
We'll go to questions now. I want to start with the questions from the League of Women Voters. Adrian Plank first on this one. If elected, what will be your top priority on behalf of the voters in your district?
On behalf of the voters, well, as far as constituents are concerned, There are many things I want to do. For instance, Rocheport, they've been advocating for a retaining wall for floodwaters, a cell phone tower with no equipment on it. There's Sturgeon, who has trouble keeping teachers because they can't get paid enough. There's Harrisburg, who's concerned about their property rights and foreign-owned turbine transmission lines coming through their properties. So there's a lot of different aspects to our constituents. And I feel like the policies that I will champion will represent all of the district, not just one ward.
Thank you. Shamin Schwak, the same question. If elected, what would be your top priority on behalf of voters?
So one of the things that when I'm out on the doors talking to people, the things that come up the most are, of course, the things that have been in the headlines here recently, which are bodily autonomy and agency for over 50% of our state. And we have a trigger law that says that 50% of our state can no longer make decisions about their own bodies. So while we won't be able to fix that immediately, it is my priority to continue to fight to retrieve those rights and for us to be able to once again have a voice and have agency.
Let me ask a question that the league has written this way, and I'm going to rephrase it. How will you, this is how it's originally written, and we'll start with Shamin Schwak on this one. How will you work to pass legislation when the Democrats are a super minority party in the legislature? I rewrote my thought earlier today. It would seem that among the requirements to be a Democrat in the Missouri State Legislature, a person would need to know how to A, manage frustration, B, handle disappointment, C, accept being of little consequence.
You know, I do not feel like I'm of little consequence. And when I am elected, you know, right now, I already sit on several statewide boards. I'm the vice president of the board for Missouri Family Health Council. We provide the Title X family planning for the state. We serve 44,000 patients a year and work with county health departments and FQRHCs from the Boot Heel over to Joplin and up to Kansas City at Children's Mercy and over to St. Louis. There are a lot of different folks in there. I also sit on Kids Win Missouri, which is a nonpartisan board also where I reach across the aisle and in work groups with people. So I believe that I am well suited to collaborate because that is what is necessary in Jeff City to get legislation passed, and we need more collaboration.
And we'll go to Adrian Plank, same question.
You know, I find it, being as I have a family full of Republicans and conservatives and was brought up in that manner. So I could speak their language for one, and I feel like, especially my sustainable farming policies, especially when it comes to corporate owned and a monopolized system that's not conducive to a free market. You know, we got to find the issues that we agree on, and if we can agree that we shouldn't be monopolizing our food industry and realizing that we need to diversify our farming industry to make it more viable. I believe just that one instance alone allows me to speak Republican language.
We'll start with Adrian Plank on this one, and this is another question from the league. What efforts will you make to establish a dialogue with your constituents?
Say it one more time.
What efforts you would make to establish a dialogue with your constituents?
Dialogue, I mean, I do that every day. You know, let me tell you what I've been doing. I've knocked 3,300 doors. I've talked to almost every targeted door in the new parts of the district. And with those conversations comes a lot of dialogue. And so I get to learn exactly what they're thinking, what's on their minds, what their concerns are. And the conversations are fantastic. And so they get to feel who I am as a person, and I get to hear their concerns, and I think that's an awesome way to do it.
Shaman Schwak, your answer?
So I think it's very important that our leaders in Jeff City actually listen to us and have open door policies and take our calls. We currently have leadership in Boone County that will not take calls, that actually blocks constituents on social media and is actually very rude in person when you try and talk to them. When I am in Jeff City, I will take everyone's calls, no matter if you voted for me or did not, whether you agree with me on everything or not. I will continue to hold town meetings. Like last week, we had a post-road discussion where we invited everyone in the community to come and have a conversation. That conversation went much longer than we had planned, but you know, that is the role of a state legislature. When people come and they want answers and they want to talk, that you sit and you talk with them as long as necessary so that they feel heard.
This will be for Shaman Schwak first, and this was the very first question that was handed in tonight. Will you look for ways to invest in public transit, and how would you do that?
So I am a big fan of public transit, and yes, I will look for ways to for the state to fund more public transit. I think public transit, particularly light rail and our city bus systems, are woefully unfunded in some places and we have none in others. And one of the things that public transit helps with is climate. It reduces urban sprawl. People create neighborhoods around when there's good transportation, and if they can get to their jobs easily, people will ride the system instead of instead of their cars, which reduces emissions into the air. And so, you know, these are ways that we can both hit climate, but we can also improve the actual functioning of our cities and our state. If we had light rail from here to Jeff City, oh my gosh. If we had from St. Louis to Jeff to Kansas City, we could all travel much more quickly and efficiently. And we would reduce actual traffic incidents on our highways also.
Adrian Plank, the same question. Would you look for ways to invest in public transit, and how?
Absolutely. Let me tell you, you know, a lot of people aren't happy with the federal government, I'm sure right now, but I can tell you one great thing that happened, and they passed a $551 billion infrastructure bill, and Missouri is going to get $9.1 billion. And that's going to be infrastructure, which is going to be transportation, air, rail, and every federal dollar that gets spent out of that has to be union labor, union skilled labor. And so as a state legislature and be endorsed by SMART Local 36, sheet metal and laborers, transportation, air and rail, they know that I'm going to advocate for them, and we will definitely bring that to Columbia. We also need to make sure that we've been talking about expanding 70 for years, lots of talk. But now that we have some money to improve our infrastructure, we need somebody there to advocate for it.
This will be Adrian Plank's question first, and while you're talking about endorsements, I've got a question from one in the audience that's talking about some confusion in regard to endorsements in regard to gun safety, and especially every town for gun safety. Let's talk about the gun issue as far as gun rights are concerned in the state, and where you fall on that, and what kind of endorsements you're finding and receiving from that. Me first.
Yeah, I would, man, such a topic. You know, our gun laws are no different or better than Texas. And I can tell you right now, we're able to separate ourselves to some degree because of the distance. And so when I advocate for gun safety, it will be through, you know, I'm a union carpenter. We get trained and we get certified on certain things that can hurt and kill us. And we're not talking about those. We get recertified and we get retrained, new technologies. We're talking about guns, and they don't even have to have permits. They don't have to have training. It's absolutely ridiculous. We do these training to reduce the risk of injury and death. And we we're out of control, and we need legislators who will advocate for gun safety laws. Plain and simple.
Shaman Schwak, your answer to the question about endorsements on the gun issue and what your thoughts are in that particular topic.
So, I am a Missourian through and through. I grew up here. My family are hunters. I've grown up with guns in my family here. And even on vacation, my family has an outfitting ranch in Montana. So gun safety is at the top priority. When you grow up with guns in a responsible gun owner family, we are taught to store our guns properly, lock our guns properly, and when out, hunting, to utilize them properly. But what we have here in Missouri with permitless carry, there's no reason we can't license guns. I'm for common sense gun laws. I don't want to come for anyone's guns. I am endorsed by Everytown for gun sense safety, and that is the political arm for Moms Demand Action. I'm not only gun sense candidate, a checkmarked candidate, but Everytown has endorsed me because I have been a volunteer for Moms Demand Action for a very long time, for over a decade. I go to Jeff City and have been leading, have done lobby days here in Missouri. I have done lobby days in other states, and common sense gun laws are important. I have kids. I want my kids to be safe at school, at the grocery store, and at church, just like everyone else.
Shaman Schwak will have the answer to the first question. Another one of the issues that is heavy on the mind of some, and including one in our audience, at least one, talking about school districts that have been under attack and some of the responses, maybe from some of the state representatives, even here locally, especially the Columbia Public School District. What experience and education do you bring to the table?
So, our education is really very important to me. It's one of my major platforms. I have an undergraduate degree in deaf education and audiology. I have a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling, and have, with that background, when I'm looking at schools for my own children, just like everybody else, I'm looking for educational integrity. I'm looking for my teachers to be certified and to know what they're teaching, and to trust them. And I trust our teachers here in Columbia. Our legislators who seem to feel like it is in their purview to overreach from Jeff City down into our local school districts and tell them what should be the curriculum or what test questions should be is ridiculous. We need to fully fund our school districts as state legislatures, and we need to let cities who elect their school boards, let those school boards deal with local issues.
All right, and Adrian Plank, same question. It's talking about school districts, especially if people have the local one in mind. What experience and education do you bring to the table?
Well, I can definitely tell you what my experiences have been when it comes to the district. My daughter has gone to CPS schools from day one. She's now will be a junior at Hickman. And I've also been a product of the public school system from all the way through high school. I went to Central Missouri State. I am the policies I'm going to push. As a union carpenter, we've seen the attacks on our schools and the underfunding of our teachers in our public educational system. And as Democrats, we've always advocated for that funding. So obviously that's not working. So like I said, as a union carpenter, I feel like teachers need to be able to stand for themselves. And I think it's a real damper on the system when they're not allowed to strike. And so when you lose all your collective bargaining leverage by not being able to strike, then that's something that I'm going to push for at the State House.
Adrian Plank will have this, and we maybe have time for just a couple of questions and then closing remarks. I think this is an interesting one. I'm going to read it as it was handed to me. Do you feel you will be able to fairly represent the other gender, and how are you going to do that?
Well, I am a male, and I understand that the representations from women to men are going to be different. I mean, you'd have to be a fool not to admit that. That doesn't mean, I'm not gonna advocate for the other gender. I've been pro-choice my entire life, my entire adult life. I've got a daughter that's 16 who's just lost all her rights. I got a wife that has a Mirena to keep down the bleeding and the pain in her system. So am I gonna advocate for women's rights? Absolutely. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I can tell you right now that if we don't stick together on this, it doesn't matter what our genders are. If we don't work together, all of us, 70% of us don't agree with the decision that was made in the courts. So let's be honest, if we don't work together and fight for each other's rights, then we're fools.
Shamin Schwak, your question, do you feel you're able to fairly represent the other gender, and how are you going to do that?
So I'm going to answer a slightly different question. I feel like I am more than capable of representing the gender that a person decides that they are. I use the pronoun she, her. We have non-binary, we have trans folks, folks who don't necessarily identify as she, her. And I believe that I can well represent all of the genders in Jeff City. I am, and I have already, I've testified for many years on Mona. I have testified for many years, and this year I specifically testified on several bills where we were attacking families with trans kids and them trying to get affirming healthcare. I think that I am well equipped to fight for everyone, and that is important.
Final question, and this is kind of a general question, but I'm just curious as to where you'll take it. Shamin Schwak, you get the first one on this. Describe your supporters.
Whew, my supporters are broad. I have a broad group of supporters, I would say. You know, I have a group of independent folks. My husband is not a big D Democrat like I am. So I've got some independents in my corner already. But I would say that, you know, the makeup of those folks who are coming out for me right now, I have a lot of young women. I've got a son in high school, his friends, and the young women in high school who are afraid because they've never heard of having their rights taken away are in my support me. And when I'm on the doors, it's, you know, it's women from all ages. I had a 96-year-old woman the other day, literally, I was taken aback because she was so mad. She was pretty much spitting and cussing about the SCOTUS decisions, and not just about abortion, but also about Miranda and about the gun laws. She was very well informed and just very angry. And I do have a lot of men and in my corner, and a lot of teachers. When you look at my endorsement page, there are a lot of retired, current and retired healthcare professionals, current and retired teachers, some scientists, and you know, in some working class young women and men who are just fed up.
Same question now to Adrian Plank, our final answer from a question. Describe your supporters.
My supporters are passionate. They're diverse. There are many genders. And I feel like a lot of my supporters are working class, dedicated family people. And they see what I do and how hard I work to make change, which I've done for years. And I think that's important to them. So my supporters is freaking awesome.
Sorry, I couldn't get to all of the questions that were handed to me tonight, but I think we have a pretty good feel of our candidates. Let us appreciate the candidates for the 47th District State Representative. Oh, closing remarks. Well, I thank you for being here. Shamin Schwak, you get to lead off our closing remarks. I was just trying to get us out of here.
Well, my name is Shamin Schwak, and I am experienced and qualified, and I will always fight for you. I am the only candidate in this primary to be endorsed by Pro-Choice Missouri, formerly NARAL, Vote Pro-Choice, the Missouri Women's Political Caucus, and the only candidate in this primary to carry the Everytown for Gun Sense Action Fund endorsement. We need 8 seats to break the supermajority in the House, and the 47th is one of those seats. And we need the right candidate in order to beat the Republican on the ballot in November. And I am that candidate. I will always fight for everyone. And I would like to ask for your vote. My name is Shemin Schwak. Vote for me on August 2nd. If you would like to know more about my campaign, you can look at Shemin for Missouri. That's the number 4. Shemin for Missouri on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And I want to just thank the league once again. I'm a proud member of the league, and I so appreciate the years of these forums. And Daniel Boone, and once again, David Lyle. Thank you.
Adrian Plank, your closing remarks, please.
As a dedicated progressive Democrat who's helped countless candidates run in red districts to not win. I put in tons of work. I've knocked thousands of doors, not just for me, but for other candidates. And as a person so dedicated and committed to change, for the longevity that I have put in to make that change, people know me. This district knows who I am. They know what I stand for, and I believe I'm the best candidate for the 47th district. And with the endorsements that I have with labor, with Moms Demand Action as a gun sense candidate, countless community leaders, and the ability in my fundraising abilities and my commitment to the entire district. They know who I am because I've seen every one of them. They know, even if they're Republicans, they know who I am and what I represent. And I think that's important. And that makes me a representative of those constituents. And that's what I'm going to do.
Adrian Plank, Shemin Schwak, they're the Democratic candidates, 47th district. We appreciate you being here tonight. The audience is always amazing. Thank you so much for what you bring to these events. Also, the League of Women Voters, thank you for what you do. Lauren from the library, thank you, and your tech crew. Thank you, Sharon, for getting questions to me. Tech crews and also KFRU and KOPN. And the league has a voter guide for the primary election. It's available on their website. Do a search for League of Women Voters Boone County or go lwdcbc.org. And we encourage you to vote in the August 2nd election. Thank you and have a good evening.